Welcome to Untangling Today's America podcast. I'm Lewis. I'm here with Josh. Today we're going to be talking about the escalation in political violence we've seen recently, mainly focusing on 2024 and 25. We'll be talking about a few examples we've searched up and also going into our views on how this is affecting our civil liberties, and also talking about how we feel about these events and how we feel about the political escalation that we've seen in recent years. Josh, if you don't mind rattling off a few of the political assassinations that have happened recently.
All right, yeah, thanks for the introduction, Lewis. We've done quite a bit of research into this, looking at not only assassination attempts, but attacks on political buildings or government buildings that's happened over the last couple of years, really year and a half, I guess. And just going through a few, we look back to 2024 in June. We'll start there. The 13th of June 2024 was the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump when he was campaigning in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was kind of thought to be, at the time, a turning point in the country, and it probably was a turning point in the election. When it was the election was at full force, Donald Trump was about to announce his running mate. I think he had actually planned to announce it either that night or the next night, and had to push it because of that. How did you feel?
I actually believe that JD was supposed to make an appearance at Butler, but then they rescheduled it to later.
Yes, that is what it is, because they wanted to delay it for, I can't remember what was coming up. They wanted to
I
delay
think no, it was before they announced it, right before the RNC, I believe.
Yeah, but so we saw the first assassination attempt on Donald Trump that day on June 13th, 2024, and then just a few short months later in September, the second attempt at Mar-a-Lago with the guy hiding in the bushes of Mar-a-Lago trying to take a shot while Donald Trump was playing golf. So it's been no surprise. I mean, I would say it wasn't that surprising leading up to it. The rhetoric had been most heated it's been in the last 10 years.
On both sides, to be honest.
Sides. Yes, on both sides. And it just heated up to the point of violence. So,
well, I mean, if we just look back, everyone knows how Donald Trump campaigned. He was very vocal on what he thought America was in that point, how he was campaigning against Joe Biden at that point, who he vehemently attacked for old age, for dementia, for stuff like that. He also was attacking left-wing politics within the country, attacking their talking points within that very vigorously. And we also have to look at how the assassin in that case did come from a more left-leaning personal train of thought, I believe. And I also have to look at the left-leaning attacks on the right during that time, where we see the name-calling, the demonization of the right wing, trying to label all right wing people as quote unquote Nazis.
Yeah,
and through those facts,
Yeah, and then it wasn't isolated, like you kind of alluded to. It wasn't isolated to just right wing violence or just violence on the right side of the aisle and left wing violence, so to speak. A month after, just less than a month after, one of Kamala Harris's campaign offices in Tempe, Arizona, was fired at 3 times in a month.
Well, then if we continue on just to that next year, we started seeing more attacks targeted on left-wing individuals. Let's look here at April 13th of this year. I believe it was an arson attempt at the governor's house in Pennsylvania, which is Josh Shapiro. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. That's who's there?
Yeah, it was Josh Shapiro.
Okay. We saw that happen, which was a target. I believe his family, I don't think they were home. No, they were home. They were evacuated.
Yeah.
Because I think the incendiary device or the arson, whatever device it was, didn't fully detonate correctly or something like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's violence on toward both sides, towards all sides, really. I don't even want to say both sides. It's towards all sides. There's not just two sides anymore. That's another thing that we'll probably talk about a little more later. But this is what you see happen when there's an increase in violence due to political rhetoric is if there was, say, two sides before, there's factions that split out, and that's what you're seeing.
There's factions of left wings, there's factions of centrists, there's factions of right wings. Yeah. Every political I'll use it as a religion idea. Denomination has its own split groups. Some that take it more fanatical, some that take it more just central.
Yeah.
And right now we've seen a definite split in these past probably 10 years, 15 years maybe, where we've seen the left and the right develop such a differentiating split between each other, where one is going not far enough for the other on their political spectrum, where they just take leaps and bounds and keep pushing and pushing out wider and wider and going more fanatical on their opinions and on their ideas. And that thing just doesn't play well with each other.
Yeah, and I think, and you almost see people, so we're going to talk right and left, and the right side goes super extreme on their side, the left goes super extreme on their side, and it almost comes to a point where they come full circle and meet, and we're seeing that in some ways that we'll discuss a little later, where it's hard, as we were doing research for this episode, sometimes it's hard to differentiate ideas between a far right extremist and a far left extremist,
because they're both so far on the spectrum.
Yeah, and
it's hard to differentiate the attacks, because when we looked into this, we were looking at extremist violence and some of the actions that were taking place. Like, I'll use this as an example. Recently, just I believe 2 days, or was it? No, it was today actually, where an ICE facility was shot up.
Yep.
The shooter had indiscriminately targeted everyone in the facility. He wasn't directly targeting ICE agents. But it also just shows with that, it was hard to determine if it was a right-wing or left-wing attack.
Yep.
Because the shooter had killed an immigrant that was detained at the facility,
Yep.
while also injuring, I believe, 2 ICE agents.
Yeah. Yeah, and then another example of that would be, and we ran across this too, is, and we'll talk, I'll just go ahead and skip ahead, if you don't mind, a little bit. And as recently as the story has recently broke, but it turns out he was arrested on August 28th. But there was a guy that went after the New Hampshire governor and was spewing a lot of hate towards Jewish people and towards like Israel's position on the Palestinian state and all that.
And that one is a definite hard figure, because we see on both the left wing with the anti-Israeli protests and also the right wing, where they're talking about the right wing conspiracies about how Jewish people run the government, Jewish people run the world. And then we also see on the left wing where it's like Jewish people are monsters, Jewish people are committing genocides now.
Yeah.
It's
and
just hard to differentiate.
So they have
these
the
folks.
same ideas, but for different reasons.
Yes, for different reasons.
So it's hard to differentiate.
See, because like we were saying there about the political spectrums, it's just totally different spectrums. One's on a completely opposite idea of the idea they're talking about, while the other's on the complete opposite compared to them.
Yeah, and then just to rattle off a few more, just kind of to make our point that the pace has picked up significantly over the past, from year over year, from 24 to 25, it's picked up a lot. But in the last 10 years.
So in a PBS article we were reading while we were doing some research on this, from I believe it was 24 to 25, there was a 25 or 35% increase in political violence.
Yeah.
From just at the beginning of the year. And we ain't even through 25 yet.
No.
And it's up by 30 or 35%.
No, we're just now going into the last quarter of it. Which that's insane. That is a real terrorist threat, I would say.
It's a real threat on our general democracy as it stands, for my opinion.
Yeah, and to go, let's just go through a few more. And obviously, the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk is kind of what sparked this episode, and it's been all that's in the news for good reason. But let's go back to May of this year, May of 2025. There was 2 Israeli embassy staffers that were murdered in cold blood outside.
So this was an interesting one, because we had the film on the events that occurred. He was outside the building and he just was buzzed in, and he came in shouting "Free, free Palestine," and then began opening fire on individuals within the building.
Yep.
Which was a clear, I believe, far left aligned individual.
Yeah. By that anti-Semitic. Yeah, and then you go. You go ahead if you have.
No, you're good.
So I was gonna say, and a lot of that what we've saw in the last year, especially this year, and it has to do, with just how things are going in the Middle East at the moment. But we saw a firebombing at a pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado in June. I mean, where the assailant was throwing Molotov cocktails into a crowd of people.
With that attack, it left 13 people injured from burns, and
one
then
later died.
Yeah, critical condition and died.
Yeah. And then obviously that's kind of left wing violence there, seemingly left wing violence. And then you go to the same month in June 14th, 2025. Minnesota lawmaker and her husband were shot dead in their house.
And also another
lawmaker
one was targeted,
and his wife was shot. They survived, and they were both Democratic lawmakers. State lawmakers in Minnesota, so that's right wing violence. So you see it's pretty evenly split right now.
It's escalating.
Yeah, it's escalating on both sides. The trajectory.
One event happens, and then the other side has to do another equalizing event. In my opinion, is what I believe is happening.
It's like a tit for tat type thing, and it's really,
even if it's not meant to be. Yeah, it's how I see it. It's because one day we'll just be reading the news, right wing extremists targets some group. Then we'll see another one, left wing extremist targets this group. Yeah. And it's just, we keep escalating to a point where there will be no return, I believe.
Yeah. So, and then obviously it's common. I mean, September 22nd, I mean, that was 2 days ago from the recording of this podcast. We saw a news station, an ABC news station in Sacramento, California, get targeted for a shooting.
Yeah, just because of the pulling of Jimmy Kimmel Live, I believe. Yeah. The individual came in there shouting inflammatory statements about Trump, the SEC, and some other things, I believe.
Yeah. So you see, it's all over the place. Both sides, violence on both sides are rising. The largest one, obviously, recently has been the Charlie Kirk assassination.
That is, in my opinion, one of the 21st century's more important political assassinations for America, at least.
Yeah, because
within America,
what they did is, what happened was, by any account on both sides, and you heard this coming out.
I want to say, if you watch CBS or ABC or whatever it is, or CNN, you probably know who Van Jones is, right? He's a political commentator of African American descent. Yeah. He has been at odds with Charlie Kirk very recently, very vocal against each other. But he recently revealed that in a DM he received from Charlie, he was asked to come participate in one of his podcast episodes so they could have a very cordial and agreeable debate between each other.
And that is what this escalation in political violence leads to, and almost every time it happens in any country in history, is eventually the good guys get killed. And that's what's happened here. Like you mentioned with Van Jones, and Van Jones is kind of a good example of that too, where those type of people on both sides, there are good people on both sides that want to have cordial conversations, debates, can still be friends, and can function in society together and do good together where possible. And I think Charlie Kirk was a great example of that. And he got taken out viciously. This was a young guy that was respected on both sides. Honestly, was respected on both sides.
Yeah, it's just a point in the U.S. history where you could definitely see a turn. Pardon my.
Yes, it's a turning point.
Yeah, yeah. But you see it as that where we split, we veer off from the track that was set for us, and we've taken a new path. With his assassination and him being labeled as the free speech guy, the guy that will have a debate with anyone, will have an open debate with anyone who disagrees with him from any side of the political spectrum, and just sitting there listening and then providing examples to prove his points or to diminish yours. With him openly doing these events at college campuses, a place that is supposed to be sacrilegious for political discourse, being, let me put in this word, executed. I won't even say his assassination was it's execution. He was executed in that moment for his own political thoughts and his ability for free speech.
Yeah, I would agree. And it is a turning point. And what you see is this is how people become radicalized.
Yes. With this, one thing is we've seen through his death on the right side, or on the right, or not right, or I will say right wing, but on the more conservative spectrum is a better term for that instead of right wing.
Yeah.
On the conservative spectrum, we've seen more people coming out and just talking about praise and forgiveness and prayers and such of that, and not wishing ill on anyone, not wishing harm to come to anyone from this, not wishing violence to take place through this. We've seen the majority of those of us on the conservative side spouting those sentiments.
Yeah.
But also with that taking place from us, we've seen the opposing side through this action espousing hateful comments such as, this serves him right, time was running out on him. Just individual comments that just diminish his life, diminish what he stood for on
Yeah.
the political spectrum of just wanting an open dialogue between both political parties.
Yeah, I don't know if some people realize how monumental he was to the election and
Yes.
the re-election of Donald Trump.
He with Turning Point USA, it wasn't a giant organization when he started in, what was it,
2012.
2015, 2016? Or was it
2012 is
early?
when he started
2012, okay. So with him starting that, it wasn't a major organization, but through him creating a podcast, through him becoming more politically involved with all these races and getting more aligned with politics and individuals within the political scene, and also expanding towards where he is outreach is dominated towards college campuses, which we've seen hasn't generally been focused on the conservative ideology.
Yeah.
It's been more pushed towards a liberal ideology, I will say.
Yeah.
We've seen him targeting that demographic. And with his work, he was one of the only ones in our modern era to focus on that demographic that's been untouched by the Republican Party. Because if you would have asked me about 10 years ago, I would have said the Republican Party is a party of my grandparents. It's
Yeah.
a party of older folks.
Yep.
It's not a modern day party for youth.
No, yeah, you're exactly right.
With what he was doing, he was working to dispel those. He was working to get more youth into the Republican Party to expound upon the Republican ideas.
Yeah, and I want to add to that for that reason he was hated by the establishment.
Yes.
Because what he was doing, he was not hated by the establishment because he was a conservative. He was hated by the establishment in Washington because he was getting a whole group of people that are the up and coming to think openly, to have that discourse and to make a decision for themselves instead of being told. And I mean, you can see this in a lot of his work. I mean, there was a recent campus visit that he did where a young lady came to him and really asked a political question, basically what he thought she should vote toward, vote right or left, what's right for her current situation. And but she, in the same question, she mentions a strained relationship with her mother and father, and you could see that in how he responded to her. It wasn't about getting her to vote for a conservative candidate. It was about his first priority was getting her in a better relationship with her family and then letting that dictate how she votes. So he wants people to think openly. He never wanted people to vote conservative because of him, but left because of him. He wanted them to make the decision for themselves. Because of that, the establishment hated him.
Well, my main takeaway from him was he was more of a religion-based individual.
I would agree.
He channeled everything he had into pushing people towards Christianity.
Yep.
From what I've watched and what I've seen, he was very vocal on his support for the Christian movement. And with that, you can see a genuine, I won't say hatred.
I think it's a hatred. I really do.
But a certain infatuation from the other side where they're like, that can't be how that goes. He's pushing religion on us. He's pushing this on us.
When in reality, he wasn't pushing it.
No, he's just that he used religion to back up his points of view.
Yeah, and I want to point this out because this has happened across different religious groups. How dare them try to use his name after his death to say that he may or may not have wanted to convert to their sect, because that's been happening across multiple
with Catholicism.
It's been, I mean, that's so wrong.
I mean, using the dead's name to push a political agenda is not new, Josh.
It's not. I'm just saying it's so wrong.
But it's
agree. So wrong, and it's not a precedent we want to set. So how dare anyone that does that do it and detract from what his life actually was? And that's not a religious statement at all. That's just a statement of having some human decency to you.
You just have to take the man from his work, and that's how you see him when you're portraying him.
Yeah. But so, I mean, we see this rise, and we've talked about this rise, the last 10, 15 minutes or so in political violence on all sides, all factions. And what does a rise in political violence really mean? Historically, what has it meant?
Well, for me, historically, there's always been political assassination attempts, political assassinations, political violence within our any political spectrum,
Yes.
from any country, any place in the world. But for me, I think it is just tenfolded, as of late, at least in my mind, because every
Especially in
day-
this country. I
Yes.
mean, really across the world.
across the world, I believe. But every day I'm seeing something new about some politician being targeted, some attempt or some action or some assassination that has actually taken place in the news. Almost every week there's something new about that. But
Yeah.
if we look back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, political assassinations were still happening. But it wasn't as common as we
wasn't
see
at
now.
this rate.
It wasn't at such a fast rate that we see now. If we look at the 2000s and early 90s, there was, I can't remember the type of, but it was an environmental terrorist group, an eco-terrorism. Yeah,
yeah.
eco-terrorism is what I'll just label it as.
Yeah.
Where they were going out and firebombing incendiary devices and stuff like that on private property. They weren't trying to cause any harm on humans. They were just going after the property that was associated with what they hated.
Yeah.
We've now seen that shift,
Devolve into
more
murderous
murderous
intentions.
intent.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And like, when you say, what does it mean? I mean, to put it bluntly, like if you were to look at it from like a 10,000-foot point of view, if it continues, it means the collapse of a society. If it continues, I'm not saying that it. I mean, we are. I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. We're at the point of no return, but we are quickly approaching it. And
Well, it's like at this point with how the increase in political assassinations, it's so fast to go through the news cycle that it's kind of numbing.
it is. Yeah, I mean that's a good point.
That it just seems commonplace now.
Yeah, and
Like it's just an everyday thing we've accepted.
and that's a dangerous.
It's a
place to
dangerous
be.
point to be at.
It's a dangerous point to be, and this rise it really hurts more than anyone. It hurts the everyday person that isn't involved in it, and because
It creates restrictions.
we're restricted. The vast majority of people don't want anything to do with this. I mean, it takes a very minute section of the population to be very vocal, very violent, and cause complete chaos. In any society any society is collapsible by just a minute fraction of people being very vocal, very loud, very chaotic, and violent.
Well, here's a point I'm going to make. The assassination of this individual was horrid, terrible, Martin Luther King Jr. But with his assassination, it was able to, or not him, but him plus JFK.
Yeah.
Those two individuals, their assassinations were such big points that allowed the civil rights movement and the civil rights legislation to get passed. Without those, I think it would have taken longer and longer for that change to be beneficial.
I mean, what are we getting out of these?
That's what I'm saying.
Nothing but violence
yes.
in a devolving society where instead of civil discourse, you have murder that takes the place of civil discourse. You have violence that overwhelms entire cities.
But I think to what I was trying to make with that point was it elicited change, like you were stating.
Yeah.
But that change was for the better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Compared to the events that led to it, the events were horrid, terrible. But the change that came out of those events were positive. And I think that's how some people are relating these events nowadays, these assassinations nowadays. They're relating those events, seeing that it illustrated change back then. It had positive effects on our country as a whole back then. Why won't that work today?
Yeah,
and that's also a point with what we see with a recent assassination by Luigi Mangione of the United Healthcare president.
Yeah.
Those people see those assassinations and they think, man, if only I could do that to create illicit change in this industry, in this country. That's how I think certain individuals believe that what will happen after that.
And that is a direct failure of government because they've created the climate in this country to, for one, people don't know their history, So, and they have no knowledge, no real knowledge of civics and how the processes work in this country. So they think that's their only option.
They think force is a only way for change to be enacted.
Yeah, because that's the loudest thing. That's the loudest. You go online, you go on YouTube, you go read a book. That's the loudest thing is violence. That's what everybody gravitates towards. That's why murder podcasts are number one, crime shows are number one. People gravitate towards
People see it as the easiest way to enact change. I mean, it technically is.
I mean, it
is. But
and they like
it's
that
not
response.
the route. Yes,
and you get that instant response. But the problem is,
but it's not the best way.
But the problem is, like you spoke to a few minutes ago, that you see it in the news every day. It's numbing. So this happens today. 2 days from now, you forgot because some other tragedies happen in some other corner of the U.S. or some other corner of the world, and we're so fractured right now. And it's so different from, if you look at times in history when the United States has been fractured as a nation. Look at the Civil War. It was a north-south thing. I mean, if we were to have something like that now, it would not be a north. There's no geographical lines to draw.
It would be state by state, and then
I would argue it would. In some cases, it would be county by county.
Yeah,
it would be community by
county. Yes.
And so there's no clear lines. The blurring of lines of who's right, who's wrong. You can't trust this group because of A. You can't trust this group because of B. Where do I belong? And it causes so much confusion that people want that loud instant gratification. That's a thing. That's another problem in the world today. Is that instant gratification they expect.
Well, it just feels like that commonality that we've shared as an American populace has just been eroded. Yeah. Like, you can't go around and celebrate just America or just
I mean that
us
is,
as a people anymore.
That's entirely true. I mean, you were talking about the civil rights movement, that era. Okay, at the end of the day, you were proud to be an American, and you realized that we worked to better ourselves, and there was a way to do that. Now, you have a large portion of the population that are seemingly not proud of it. And in fact, they dismiss America as an oppressive country. They think this is a racist country, or they think this is a backwards country. And there is no, like you said, there's no commonality between us as citizens. We're disgusted with each other, and a lot of times it's a dangerous. And what does that do really, when the population is fractured, and this is happening? And we'll kind of move into this too. I mean, it creates what we want to call a surveillance state, and so what that means is, as the population, as society gets more divided, more fractured, you tend to have the government come in and say, well, this is how we're going to fix it, to a problem they initially caused. Let's just be clear on that, too. They've allowed this to happen.
Yes, it's like with the rhetoric statements, where we see the increased rhetoric as, this group is Nazis.
Yeah.
This group needs to be dealt with. This group is the problem for America.
Yeah. You can't call
like half the population of America
Nazis for 10 straight years, and then come say, well, I'm appalled by this assassination.
I'm appalled by this political assassination. I'm appalled by this political
You caused this, and you're sick. You're sick for causing it. So let's not pretend. Let's not pretend like
also, whenever these events do happen, it allows the government to take away more freedoms from us.
Absolutely, it's an erosion of rights. It creates what we want to talk about next is the surveillance state, and like you see in Britain and China and other countries where our rights are slowly eroded with the guise of it's temporary, or the guise of this is going to end the violence.
Yeah, this is for the betterment of the country,
and it never is. It never is.
Well, it's like with all of these political assassinations we've seen so far, and every presidency since the enactment of the Patriot Act in the United States, we've seen every political administration add on to the Patriot Act, expand upon it. They haven't tried to, restrain it.
Yeah.
They've taken more and more power for themselves.
Yeah. Every administration, regardless of party.
Well, one big part, Josh, that you really was hammering on was sneak and peek searches, which are covered under enhanced surveillance powers under the Patriot Act. If you want to discuss more into that, I'll just knock it on its head.
Yeah, So we can talk about some things, and just a little background to the Patriot Act. Came out right after 9/11, and under the guise of we need to snuff out terrorism, both really terrorists that may be residing in the U.S. And on the surface, it appeared as if this was for the good of the country and the government had our best interest in mind. Well, let's not pretend like that's the case all the time, that the government has your best interest in mind. Any government, no matter what the government is, no matter if it's a local government, a state government, a federal government, a foreign government, if you give them power, you give that body power,
They will exceed upon it as
and
much as
they will
can.
not. They will not give it back, even if it's temporary or said to be temporary. So we look at these enhanced surveillance powers that came out of 9/11 and the Patriot Act, and like the sneak and peek searches. That authorized searches of private property with no prior notice to the owner, and with a caveat, provided there was a court order. That was entirely new. Record search extended the government's authority to access various records held by third parties. I mean, think of what books you're checking out at the library, what books you bought at the bookstore. Are you buying a lot of fertilizer at co-op? Well, do you have cows, or are you making a bomb? What are you doing? And that's never stopped. It's never stopped. And it didn't work too. I mean, I'll just go and say that it's worked in some cases, but by and large, all it's done is eroded the rights. It's really attacked the Fourth Amendment. And let's just read the Fourth Amendment out of the Constitution. It says, word for word, protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures by requiring that warrants be based on probable cause and be specific in describing the place to be searched and the people or things to be seized. So I want to make a couple points off of this. And when it says in the second line, it says by requiring that warrants be based on probable cause and be specific. So we go to the Patriot Act and look. So for one, sneak and peek searches, like we were just referenced, private property, that means houses and businesses and cars, but they don't have. But the biggest thing is why it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, in my view, is that it doesn't. They don't have to be specific. They just have to be looking for something. They don't even have to list what it is. It's just something that could tie you into being a terrorist in this case. Like I said a minute ago, do you have a lot of fertilizer? Well, that means you're instantly targeted as, oh, well, this person may be a terrorist. Well, no, maybe they have a large farm, but we're not going to look at that. First, we're going to go through all their stuff. So it's a direct result, and we never get that power back. We never get it back.
Well, it's like if we just look at other countries that have done similar things, we look at Britain and we look at China. Let's just take a first look at Britain. Britain, by and large, is a major surveillance state at this point in time. So is China. But Britain has almost a corner, and on every corner in their country, a surveillance system that has the ability to facially recognize individuals in an instant. They have them all in a database. They also have they have access to see what you're watching and liking on Instagram, on Twitter, on whatever, any social media platform or any video streaming platform. They can come to your home without prior notification and commence an investigation into such activities. Like, I just watched a video on Instagram a few days ago where it was two British officers were investigating a 13-year-old for stuff they had watched on YouTube.
Yeah.
Which is, in that place, how do they have the ability, or how much?
How do they know?
Yeah, how do they know? Like, what is allowing them to track every individual within their
they can track
country?
what you buy.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling to me that they have such a system in place and how they've perfected it, where they can go and just randomly show up at someone's house and be like, hey, did you watch this video on this date and this date? Would you like to have a talk with us? Would you like to come with us?
Yeah.
It's just
And you have no choice, by the way.
It's like Big Brother, like 1984.
You have no choice. And it's all an escalation, in my view, to what China is now, where you have a social credit score.
Yeah, China.
And they can... And here's the interesting thing about China. There's no need to kill you if you're a political... You just discredit you, disgrace you, and you go live in abject poverty, and there's no reason for them to kill you.
With China, where you mentioned the social credit score, it can literally deem you from not being able to purchase stuff from your grocery store.
Yeah.
It won't allow you public transportation. It will ban you from certain areas within a city.
Yeah, they can literally debank you.
Yes.
And they can do it in this country, too, and they have done it to certain people. They can do pretty much any country can do it, but they do it to a huge degree in China. And one of the central ideas from governments to be able to do this is everything is digital. Your currency is digital. They discourage the use of paper money or coins.
Well, paper money technically is worthless as it is because any given day a country can just switch currencies.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so everything is digitized to where with literally one phone call, the Chinese Communist Party debanks you, you have zero money, and you live in abject poverty. And then what are you going to do?
Nothing.
Who's going to listen to you?
Your
Who's
life's
going to help you?
ruined.
Yeah. No need to kill you. Just debank you.
Yeah. Just make your life unlivable.
Yeah. And then
They found an easy solution.
yeah. So and we're moving in such a way. It's astounding that we've allowed ourselves to get this far down the road to that, where we watch, in the case of Britain, we watch an ally do this to their own populace, and we are going to allow those same we can cry and hoot and holler and everything else of these things, but and here's another thing too, is like, it's all fine when they do it to the other side. But if they do it to our side, it's bad. No, it's wrong for both sides. I would sit here and defend any left-wing politician, any left-wing citizen from an unreasonable search and seizure, just like I would defend any right-wing person, because it's wrong no matter what side you are on. Because in this country, and every 4 years, you could fall out of favor. So you don't need to get in the idea of, well, if the other side is the only one suffering from this right now. Well, in 4 years, that can change. And eventually it's going to change for everybody, regardless of who's in power, what side, because they're all the same at the end of the day.
One day you're just going to be demonized.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it's the erosion of privacy. Privacy is one of the foundations of a free people. You have, and it's a right that you naturally have. I mean, I would call it a God-given right.
A natural right.
It's a natural right. It's not granted to you by the government. You have the expectation of privacy as an individual.
You have the innate right when you are born and expectation of privacy.
Yeah, and it's the same.
It's a natural law.
Yeah, and with the erosion of privacy is the erosion of freedom. And we've saw this bubble up in times of war throughout the history of the U.S. It seems like each time it's happened, we've gotten less and less back, and here we are. And it's sad. It's sad we've allowed ourselves to get this far. And how do you, in your view, how do you come out of it? How do you reverse this?
At this point where you're so far down a road where you've granted so much power, it's almost impossible to reduce or take away from the government entity that has been allowed this power. You know what I mean, Josh?
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, I don't think there is a clear road unless there is a united consensus that these, like the Patriot Act, should be repealed.
Yeah.
Fully and thoroughly. I don't think there is a route for it to just slowly be taken back by our own political establishment as it is.
No, and it's not. It's
because there's not enough of those individuals within the government that will all agree to work together to shrink the Patriot Act, to shrink the NSA, to shrink organizations that spy on everyday citizens.
Yeah. And what I fear has happened is that we have these systems in place that only are there now to serve themselves. So the system is only there to keep itself alive. It's not there for the original purpose. It's not there to help the citizens. It's there to keep itself alive no matter what.
That's what you could say about government itself, Josh. The entire idea of government is just to sustain itself.
So
at this point in time, in my opinion, is the government's only in place to sustain itself. It doesn't necessarily fully help us anymore.
No, it's straight so far away. And in all honesty, the founding fathers laid this out and thought this is exactly what would happen.
Hey,
and in fact, Josh, they thought it would happen a lot sooner.
Well, 250 years was a good try, Josh.
It was a good try, yeah. I mean, so...
Hey, they weren't as thorough as they thought when writing the Constitution.
They could be as thorough as they want. I mean, we have judges now that just disregard it.
What is the Constitution? Constitutional law means nothing, Josh.
Yeah. So, at some point, the people have to push back. And violence isn't the answer. It is never the answer to it. That's not what I mean.
You're getting real close to pushing towards violence, Josh.
No, it's just... You have to do it. I'll tell you where it starts. I mean, it can start small. We need to take back your local government. Take back your schools. Why are we letting people that run schools that have no business doing it? The parents don't step up. Well, that's a whole other problem. Then you get down the road, well, the government's created such a
Convoluted
a
system.
crappy situation where young Americans the average home price where we live, Lewis, for a first-time home buyer is over $350,000. It's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. Most young people can't afford that. So what do? They rent and they piss money away because of the situation that our government's created. And at some point, we have to take that back. That means rational people have to get into politics and pay attention and follow it. It's easy to be told what to do. It's hard to make a decision for yourself. That's why freedom is so hard. And that's why people are so easy to give up rights, because they don't even realize it's happening. It's slow. It's happened slow. And that doesn't happen overnight. It's always a slow evolution to complete tyranny. It's happened everywhere in history. Everywhere in history. So, and I really think, like we've been talking about the surveillance state, I really think that that's a big part of it, where the erosion of privacy and the erosion of free speech. And that, to me, one of the things that these political assassinations and assassination attempts really speak to is that freedom of speech is slowly dying. Because
here's the point when you're talking about freedom of speech. How I understand that you're also not meaning by certain actions, but how do you feel about the organization Antifa being discussed by recent tweets or actions by Donald or President Trump, trying to get them designated as a domestic terrorist organization?
Well,
in your opinion, I mean, I currently, in my own thoughts, believe that yes, they should be designated as a domestic terrorist organization. Because if you look at riots that happened back in 2016, back in 2018 and stuff like that, and back in whenever Chaz was, or whatever that...
No, that was 2020.
Was it 2020?
I think. I mean, that was the year of hell.
Whenever the Summer of Love happened, Josh.
Yeah.
Summer of Love. Whenever all that was being orchestrated and happening... What was the number one group that we were here? Antifa. They were the number one group organization promoting, funding, and organizing demonstrators to these events.
Yeah, I mean, so here's a question. Like, I get where you're coming from. Does Antifa...
But they're technically a...
Do they have chapters?
There's chapters. There's chapters.
So see, it's an organization it actually has an organizational structure that causes violence, that encourages violence and sends people out for violence. Then yes.
But here's the counterpoint that some people are trying to make: they are promoting political speech, their political thought through their organization.
Yeah, and I understand that. That's why it is a slippery slope. I think that if they are caught, this is my view on it. Everyone has a right to free speech. Everyone has a right to make their own thoughts, their own comments, and their own actions until it impedes the rights of another. And that's what they do. So in that case, I don't have an issue with it. I think it is a slippery slope, because if you're trying, because one of the arguments too is that Antifa is not a group, it's an idea. How do you regulate an idea? You can't. I would argue against that. Yeah. It is a group. It has, like you mentioned, it has chapters. There's a chapter in every major city in the U.S., and they cause destruction. There's video and photographic evidence of them pre-planning riots and offloading pallets of bricks in Washington, D.C. to throw at businesses and people. So, yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement that it is a domestic terrorist group, just like if there was a right-wing militia that had chapters that went and organized shootings.
3%ers.
I mean, yeah, I have no problem with it, but it is a slippery slope. There has to be a clear cutoff, and that's what I think the cutoff is if you are impeding someone else's right, then you are in the wrong. Antifa saying insane ideas is not a terroristic threat. No. They should be allowed to say that. I disagree wholeheartedly. But
you're going to protect their freedom of speech.
But they should be able to say what they want to say.
But
when it comes to violence, that's different. I mean, that is entirely different. But I mean,
but with their speech, it often devolves into political violence.
It does, yeah. And so, here's another argument with that. And here's another thing with freedom being hard. Would you rather? Was it Benjamin Franklin that said that? I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said that anyone who is willing to give up liberty and freedom for a little security doesn't deserve either. And that's true. Because it's never going to be completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
But you want everybody to be able to say and think what they want to say and think. There's always going to be crazies.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless. I mean, there's always going to be crazies. And that goes into another topic I'd like to ask your opinion on that kind of goes with this surveillance state and with, you know, more erosion of privacy, erosion of rights. Is what is your thoughts on the National Guard being sent to cities?
Technically, it's within the framework that has been established for them since forever, I'm pretty sure almost, that the president has power and authority over the National Guard.
Yes.
That's his personal deploy, where he can deploy within the, because that's what the National Guard was created for, was to be able to be deployed within the United States.
Yeah.
That was their whole creation and idea, was an entity that could be established and used by the president when needed within the United States, because no faction, no army can act within an independent or within a state.
Yeah.
So that's why the National Guard was
So,
created.
and then...
So in my opinion, I think it's double-edged sword.
Yeah.
They're there because of failures on the local governance level and the state level to curtail such aggressive actions within that city or that state. But then also, for me, it's an overreach. Even though that's technically the whole idea of the branch is being able to be deployed within the United States, within trouble areas, I also think it's an overreach.
And just because something's allowed or legal doesn't mean it's right to do. Yeah, because then, like, the component I most disagree, like, I go back and forth, and I'm not entirely versed on, the framework surrounding what you're talking about with the National Guard, like all the legalese behind it, but where I think it crosses a line potentially for me, and here again, it may be completely in the legal framework, and it's playing out in the courts now, but what about active duty military being deployed to U.S. cities?
You can't. That's a no-go.
I mean, it's happened though, right?
It's happened, but I'm
Recently,
pretty sure
right?
it's a no-go.
Yeah.
Or it's not supposed to be allowed. They can only...
I mean, it happened in L.A., right?
So what I think they can only... Whenever they do deploy active duty military, like the Marine Corps, which is what you're referencing, right? Mm-hmm. I think they're only allowed to be deployed on government-owned property, mm-hmm. which is what I'm pretty sure they were stationed to do. With federally owned property.
Now, and let's just, you said it was a failure on, local and state governments. I'm going to go a step further and say it's a failure from the federal government too. The federal government is supposed to have every citizen's best interest in mind, and they've clearly failed at that. They've allowed this breeding ground of insane laws, this insanity to come down throughout states and cities. They're basically trying to inject a cure to something they created. Mm-hmm. That's where I have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. It is a double-edged sword, like you said. Like it. I mean, it's wild to think that in no other facet of life would you want the person that caused something to also come up with a cure. Like, you wouldn't want me to stab you right now and then put a chest seal on you and say, well, I've got the cure. That's not how it works. It's not how it's supposed to work.
Snake oil salesman selling snake oil.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's insane. So the erosion of privacy and just the overall
curtailing of civil liberties.
Yeah, it's appalling. Mm-hmm. And no matter what you do it in the name of, there's always another meaning behind it. I encourage everyone to look beyond the surface level of what's being said in the news or even more a press statement from the government, because it changes with the winds. It changes with the political winds, so to speak, mm-hmm. what they think is going to be best that day. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think this is a good stopping point, Josh.
All right. Well, I'm going to add one thing. I'm going to add one thing, and I want to say so. We talked a little bit about the founding fathers and what they had in mind for the country and where they thought we would be, and what do you? I mean, we talk often, like in private, of what they would be thinking if they were looking at this now.
If we look at George Washington, his vision whenever he was elected as the first president of the United States was a self-focused country. He didn't want us to be managing everywhere else. Yep. He didn't want us to be involved in for as much foreign politics as we are now. He said foreign relations were
For trade only, essentially.
for trade. He rarely even wanted trade.
Yeah.
He wanted it to be all within the United States. We were a self-sufficient nation. That we relied on no other country. But after his term was over and he left, we saw the shift and further shift and further shift to where we are the outward country.
Yeah. We're more places in the world than any
other.
other country.
Yeah.
We're the police of the world. I mean, I think an interesting one in George Washington's his farewell address. He warned, he spent like 2 pages of his farewell address cautioning allegiances with foreign nations, because and his idea behind that was you can be friendly. You should be friendly with everyone that you can
But
be
you
friendly
never-
with,
should never make
and
an
you
alliance
should be, and it's okay to trade with people, but no matter if it's an enemy or an ally, you're a slave to them. When you pledge allegiance in one way or another, you're a slave to that, and we see that, and it dictates. You're seeing it more than ever that it's dictating domestic policy, which is wrong in so many facets. But one of the founding fathers, Patrick Henry, he gave one of the classic speeches in U.S. history. If you've taken any U.S. history class, you probably heard this, but he was giving a speech to his colony, or to the colony of Virginia, speaking specifically to and about their militia in Virginia, and speaking about what the colony should do for the revolution. And I think this is something that should ring true now, and not in a violent revolution way, but we're in the midst of a time where we need to have a revolution, so to speak, of ideas, a revolution of people getting involved in government. Not a violent revolution, but a revolution of discussion and open discussion and debate. And he said, he essentially made this speech that you have a duty to be involved in this. You have a duty. And he ended this speech with one of the most famous quotes probably in American history in it. And he said, I know not what course others may take, talking about others in the colony and in all the colonies. He doesn't know what others will do. But he says, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. And that's how he ended it. And that's true. It's better to die. It's better to die standing up than to live on your knees, so to speak. It's hard to have freedom. It's hard to keep it, and there's a cost to it. And we saw what the cost is. There's been a lot of blood shed for what we have, and we should never forget that. And we'll echo Patrick Henry here, and give me liberty or give me death. Let me have freedom, or don't have me at all. And that's my position on it. That's all for me.
It was very eloquently said, Josh.
Well, you can thank Patrick Henry. He was more eloquent than I was. But, all right, well, I think that'll end it.
I think that will, Josh.
All right, well, everybody, thanks for listening, and tune in for the next one.